Hey everyone, welcome back to a new video. In this one, I thought I would take a look at a list of the world's largest islands. Now, the first one that jumps to mind is Australia. However, Australia is technically considered a continent. The same thing happens with Antarctica. These are considered continental land masses rather than islands, so we can't consider them for this list any more than we would consider Africa being an island. Because of this, the largest island in the world is technically Greenland. At around 2 million square kilometers, the Danish autonomous country tops this list. It's a part of the continent of North America, but it has always been more associated with Europe, more specifically Denmark and Norway because of colonialism. Most of its inhabitants are of Inuit origin, the native people of that land who migrated there from Canada in the 13th century. It is the only place in the world, other than Antarctica, which has a permanent ice sheet. It's also the least densely populated territory in the world, and most of its people live in the capital of Nuuk. An interesting fact about it is that it holds one of the highest shares of renewable energy in the world, at a great 70%. In second place comes New Guinea, with 785,000 square kilometers, off the coast of Australia and part of the archipelago of Indonesia. It's divided between the independent state of Papua New Guinea in the east and Western New Guinea, ruled by Indonesia in the west. It has been inhabited by humans for over 40,000 years, and over 700 idioms are spoken there. During colonial times, it was ruled by the Spanish, the Germans, the British, and then the Australians. It is one of the least explored territories in the world because of its dense rainforest, and several undiscovered species are projected to still exist there. It's very rural. In the eastern part of the island, only 18% of people live in urban centers, and the roads are very limited. Next, Borneo, at 748,000 square kilometers, part of the Great Sunda Islands archipelago. It's divided politically between Malaysia, Brunei, and Indonesia these days. It is also home to one of the oldest rainforests in the world, with an estimated age of around 140 million years. It's therefore the center of the evolution and distribution of many plants and animals that we know. There's over 15,000 species of plants, 3,000 of trees, 221 kinds of mammals, 420 types of birds, and over 400 types of fish species as well. Cave paintings date back around 50,000 years, so we can assume it has been populated by humans for a long time as well. Before its current political status, it was ruled by natives, and then the British, the Dutch, and the Japanese. For the next one, we go to the African coast, Madagascar. At 587,000 square kilometers, it's the world's fourth largest island. Today, it is its own independent nation. Despite being closer to the African continent today, it actually split from the Indian Peninsula about 88 million years ago. Its early creation as an island makes it so that its biodiversity is highly exclusive to their land. Over 90% of its wildlife is found nowhere else on the planet. Human settlement took place between 350 BC and 550 AD by people who arrived on canoes from Borneo, the island we saw before this. Imagining the traveling time that must have taken them on canoes. And then other native populations joined them from Africa. For most of its history, it was ruled by a ton of tribes, and then they united into the Kingdom of Madagascar. After a brief period of French colonial rule, they became independent again as they are today. In fifth place, we have Baffin, an island in the Canadian territory of Nunavut, with just over 500,000 square kilometers. It is named after the British explorer William Baffin, and I'm mispronouncing the name, I'm sure, but it is projected that it had been previously discovered by Norse explorers from Greenland and Iceland. Like these two, it was inhabited by native Inuit people. Some researchers, however, found evidence of contact with European cultures from around the year 1000, leading us to believe that it really must have been the Nordic people that had some type of early contact with them. Today, it's a part of Canada and has close to 11,000 people, 72% of which are still of Inuit origin. Moving back to Asia, Sumatra, an island in the Sunda archipelago with just over 473,000 square kilometers. Being the home to over 50 million people, it is ruled and a part of Indonesia. The equator line crosses the island at its center. It's a tropical island, and years ago its large rainforest took up all of the island. However, deforestation has taken place recently with more human activity on the island. Other than the destruction of nature, this deforestation has also had political consequences, creating a serious seasonal smoke haze over neighboring countries, which contributed to tensions between Indonesia, Malaysia, and Singapore in 2013. About 50% of its forest has been lost in the last 35 years, and because of that, a lot of its species are in risk of disappearing, like the Sumatran tiger or elephant. In ancient times, it was known as the Island of Gold. It then became the Kingdom of Aceh and Samudra, which means gathering of waters. Eventually, European powers used similar names for the entire island, creating the name of Sumatra. In 7th place, Honshu. Honshu is the largest island of the Japanese archipelago, with almost 228,000 square kilometers. It's also the second most populous island in the world, with 104 million people, only behind Java in Indonesia. 25% of this population lives in the Greater Tokyo area, the Japanese mega capital, also housing the Taiheiyo Belt in its south, joining many Japanese cities and containing a lot of its industry. It includes many of Japan's former capitals as well, like Kyoto, Kamakura, or Nara, taking up 60% of Japan's total area and being slightly larger than Great Britain. They have tried to increase the island's size with land reclamation techniques, but sea rising levels as a consequence of global warming has made the effects of this not very visible. It's a volcanic region, and the active volcano Mount Fuji makes it the world's 7th highest island. Inside Japan, it is the main source of tea and silk. Traveling to Europe, Great Britain, maybe the most well-known in this list, at least for me. With 209,000 square kilometers, it is the largest of the British Isles, and the largest European island, therefore not including Ireland or Northern Ireland. With a population of 61 million people, it's the 3rd most populous in the world. It's ruled by the United Kingdom, through its constituent countries of Scotland, Wales, and England. The earliest known name for it is Albion, with a meaning which is similar to white in Greek. It was then named Britannia, the land of the Britons, a name used by the Romans. Geographically, it refers to this island alone. However, it has at times been used to refer politically to the whole of England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland, as well as the hundreds of small surrounding islands. Next, Victoria. The Canadian island of Victoria, part of the Canadian Arctic archipelago, has around 217,000 square kilometers and is the world's 9th largest island, with only 2,100 people who are almost in total of Inuit ethnicity. There are some disputes as to whether this island is actually larger than Great Britain, but most information that I found pointed to it being slightly smaller. It was discovered in 1826 by the British and named Victoria's Land, one can assume after Queen Victoria, in 1839. There doesn't seem to be much to it. It's a big island with an Arctic climate and very few inhabitants. And finally, we have Ellesmere, slightly northeast of Victoria and also a part of Canada. In its original Inuit name, it is called Umingmak Nuna, meaning land of musk oxen. Most of its territory is mountainous, and the Arctic willow is the only wooden species that grows on the island. Its population is even smaller than Victoria's, having only 191 people in 2016. However, it's been populated since about 2000, 1000 BC by humans who moved there to hunt. Eventually, it was abandoned due to its extreme weather conditions. Vikings from the Greenland colonies are said to have reached the island during hunting expeditions, establishing trade with the Inuit groups who lived there at the time. About 1/5 of the island is protected as a national park, with many fjords and glaciers to see. And then we have to keep in mind that a lot of these are independent nations, or they are formed by more than one state. So there are certain countries who aren't in this list, but that would be included in the top 10 of largest island nations, like Japan, the Philippines, or New Zealand. But anyway, those were the world's 10 largest islands. If you enjoyed the video and want to catch new ones, make sure to subscribe. Leave a comment below with your opinions and thoughts, and I will see you in the next video.